All right, good evening. Good evening. Welcome everyone to IKG's Wisdom Wednesday. I am your host, Sister Ajwa, and we are pleased that you are joining us today for what we know will be another remarkable and enlightening Wisdom Wednesday presentation. Wisdom Wednesdays are a monthly lecture series that IKG hosts right here on Zoom webinar for all of our family around the world to enjoy. So we ask that as you come into the room that you let us know where you are checking in from so that we can go ahead and shout you out. Also want to let you all know that we have a Q&A box. So if you have questions for our speaker, we ask that you place those questions in the Q&A box. And all other interactions, we ask that you use the chat. So our Wisdom Wednesday lecture series is an opportunity for us to hear from various speakers on topics related to the Black, African American community and ways that we can empower ourselves, our families, our communities, and our people. And tonight will be no different. So if you would like to learn more about IKG Wisdom Wednesdays, we do ask that you go to our website, ikgculturalresourcecenter.com, where you can see the entire schedule for this year. While you're at our website, also check out the Egypt on the Potomac field trips, where you will learn about mysteries in plain sight or secrets hidden in plain sight, secrets related to African architecture, African history that has been embedded right here in Washington, D.C. We have field trips on the first Saturday of the month. And so we do encourage you to go there, book a field trip, bring family or bring a friend. And, let me see something. If you were not able to type in the chat, you are now able to type in the chat. So please go ahead and let us know where you are checking in from so we can give you a shout out. Okay. So, all right. So they're coming on in. All right. Dallas, Texas, welcome. Michigan, Miami, Inglewood, California, Kalamazoo, welcome. We have Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Llano, Maryland, Killeen, Texas, Lawrenceville, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland, Staten Island, New York, Augusta, Georgia, Bowie, Maryland, Apple Valley, California, DC in the house, Southwest DC in the house. All right. Albuquerque, New Mexico, welcome. Richmond, Virginia, welcome. Greetings, Hotep from Chicago, welcome. Cleveland, Ohio, thank you for joining us, family. Jackson, Mississippi, thank you for joining us. Fort Myers, Florida, Wheaton, Maryland. Keep them coming in, family. We love to have that vibe, that energy spreading all over. So it just really makes us feel good when we know that we have this information spreading across the country and across the globe. So we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's program. And I'm going to ask our wonderful speaker, Brother Kepra Anu, if he can come on screen while I introduce the program. And while he's getting on, welcome. Tonight, Kepra Anu will be speaking on Detoxing with Rhythm and Spirituality, Part 2. Men should fast with the sun, women should fast with the moon. Tonight's presentation is a continuation of last year's presentation, Detoxing with Rhythm and Spirituality. The primary aim last year was to look beyond the physical benefits of diet and lifestyle and highlight the spirituality aspect for greater understanding and enlightenment. After 20 years of practice, Kepra Anu have come to understand that men and women should practice fasting differently. He shares We understand that men and women are driven by different hormones. We will look specifically into testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, and the cosmic spiritual associations, largely the sun, moon, and Venus. As the sun and moon operate on different cycles, so should men and women for optimal health and efficiency. It will become clear that for men and women, the natural rhythmic cycles for detoxification are different but complementary, a la the sun and the moon. About our speaker, Kepra Anu has devoted his life to sharing the benefits of a living food lifestyle, along with systemic scientific fasting as a way of life. Over the last 20 years, Kepra has served the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia community with his delightful raw food creations and his popular juice cleanses. And I can attest, they're wonderful juice cleanses. You should get them. In 2011, he began Kepra Raw Food Juice Bar, and under his leadership, he has served over 100,000 juice cleanses. In 2012, he published Paradise Health, a feasting and fasting guide to optimal health through detoxification. Kepra is presently enrolled at the University of Natural Health, where he will receive his PhD in naturopathy, the study of healing and disease as a natural corrective action of the body. I know I mispronounced that, so I'm sure he will correct me on my pronunciation. Um, I'm going to now turn it over to you, Kepra. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are excited to hear your presentation.
Right. Well, good evening. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be back once again. All right, let's jump right into it. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Wait, before I do that, let me queue up my presentation. Oh, okay. So let me see here. Okay. Okay. All right. So how do Audra, how do this bar is like right in the middle of my screen. Is there a way that I can remove that?
Okay, so we're not seeing it on our end, but you should be able to hover over it and slide it and move it on your
Okay.
screen.
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, I had to do that first. Okay. Because once I hit the presentation, it's like I lose um the ability to navigate. Okay, all right. All right. Well, I just want to welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. Tonight what we're going to do is really build on last year. You know, last year the aim and the focus was to really introduce what has been the culmination of my life's work, you know, becoming a raw vegan in 99, 2000. 25 years ago. Now, got into fasting, didn't really know what I was doing. And over the last 25 years, I mean, my journey started before that, but especially in the last 25 years, I've been on this journey. I've been able to learn so much, experience so much, experimenting on myself completely, and I've had the wonderful blessing to be able to share my lifestyle and be able to that to be not only my lifestyle but my business. So this is how I make a living. And opportunities like this one where I'm able to come on a platform like IKG and really give a formal presentation is the icing on the cake. um it's so much in terms of so much I've learned, and a lot of it, a good portion of it, I would say, goes against traditional, at least accepted ideas and beliefs. And hopefully, after tonight, I'll be able to move the needle somewhat with at least all of you that are here. So again, so the first half of the presentation, I'm going to go through the slides that I prepared last year as sort of a primer to so that anyone is just coming into this for the first time or didn't see last year's presentation, you'll be pretty much up to speed. I'm going to go through those slides pretty quickly, as that was my presentation last year. If you're interested in seeing that full presentation, you can go to either my YouTube channel or I'm not sure if it's on IKG's website or IKG's YouTube channel, but you can certainly go on my YouTube channel and find that video, Detoxification with Rhythm and Spirituality. Obviously, with this presentation, we're going to be diving deeper as we go into men being aligned with the solar energy and women being aligned with the lunar or moon energy. All right, so let's get started. So last year, the presentation really, again, this was, and what I was really introducing is an idea that health and healing is all about a balance that we're always trying to navigate. And once we're, as I say, the road to a healing equilibrium, because oftentimes you could be eating a very healthy, I mean, we all know people that eat the standard American diet, they eat highly processed foods, but then they say they hardly ever get sick. They're they're on a equilibrium that has adjusted to those food stuffs and that lifestyle. And vice versa for someone who eats very healthy and does healing and things that promote healing could often be sick. So it's all about finding an equilibrium and raising your equilibrium, raising your sensitivity, as I also say. Uh, so so that's what I mean by healing equilibrium. So obviously, that's the buzzword, detoxification. And like I said, I'm going to go through these really quickly, but detoxification, when we think about this as a holistic system, detoxification is a mind, body, soul experience. And with detoxification, we're focused on the body. And when we talk about rhythm, we're aligning our soul with the rhythm in terms of understanding the cycles. And that's what we're really going to get into when we get into the men and women aspect portion of this. And then spirituality, I say spirituality is the mind. So as we have our image here, if you're looking at the presentation, the slide, we know we're all familiar with the chakras, and the lower body And I like to divide it into three parts, where we have the upper portion, which is our mind. So that's the top three chakras. And then we have our center, which is where our soul is. That's where our heart is, and that's where our emotions are. And then we have the lower self, or the lower body, which is the bottom three chakras. That is the body, and that's what we want to focus on, because we have the digestive organs located there, the stomach, those things which really identify the animal portion of who we are. Now, I talked about toxemia, and it all starts with toxemia, or toxins, as we like to say. And we'll go through these really quickly. If you want a deeper, again, dive into this, I went into this with a lot more detail last year. But Toxemia Explained is the title of a book that's part of my coursework. Um, and you can find that if you Google that, if you're interested in that read. But it's the evolution of disease. Okay, and all disease starts with innervation. And innervation, if you look within the word innervation, we see nerve. So it all starts with the nervous system. As the image here, I try to show an image that highlights our nervous system. Our nervous system is the first it is our health system in terms of where everything begins. So when we say innervation, the nervous system is being rattled or being affected. And at this stage of disease, it doesn't necessarily translate into actual illness, but it is the first step and it's generated from lifestyle habits, bad diet, bad lack of sleep, lack of rest, and things of that nature. And then at the next stage is irritation. And that irritation, this is where we start to feel some of the impact of the road of disease. And then we reach inflammation. And inflammation, again, is the next stage. And that's when we really start to notice an impact, and we're at this point, we are uncomfortable. Irritation, it may be acute, it may be something that is here today, gone tomorrow. But again, these are signals. And it all starts from, again, poor lifestyle habits, and basically just having a unbalanced equilibrium, if that makes sense. And then ulceration. So ulceration is when we've been inflamed, we've been actually the inflammation goes from acute inflammation to chronic inflammation, where it's like you've been living with this for years, if not decades. And at ulceration, that's when things begin to tear. Tissues begin to lose their lining in terms of like staying together, and we start to get tears in the tissues. And then induration. Induration is when things begin to harden. So arteries begin to harden. Just this should be a soft, fluid body, largely water. But again, if we going down this evolution of disease, induration is where um, we start to see hardening of tissue, stroke, diabetes, things that we're very well familiar with. We're at induration stage. And then last but not least is cancer. Cancer is the stage where basically the body forms tumors as toxic dump sites, where basically when cancer shows up, it's the last stage to keep you alive. All right. And then, we talk about stimulants. And stimulants, I asked the question, are stimulants truly healing, or do they continue to exhaust the nervous system, the body system, in terms of when we ingest? We live in a consumer culture, consumer-driven culture, and everything is about solving a problem by consuming something else to solve that problem. And 9 times out of 10 is doing the opposite of just that, or doing nothing. So I asked the question, do stimulants heal or exhaust? Does the body need help? Oftentimes we don't understand how the body works. We don't understand how disease even develops. And disease in and of itself, as Audra mentioned, I'm studying nature orthopathy, and basically it's really orthopathy. And orthopath simply means that disease is right action. All of the other systems that deal with healing say that disease is incorrect, that the body is attacking itself. So when we ask the question, does the body need help? Well, the body's been keeping you alive. The disease is the cure. When we get acute disease, whether it be at the very basic level, congestion, headaches, stiffness, these are all reactions that the body uses to actually self-heal itself. The body wants to be well. The body wants to wants to create balance always. And when we say that the body needs, does the body need help in the way of a supplement or the way of another substance? Because once we begin to stop eating, then the body really turns on the healing power. Infections. Will an infection kill us? An infection is the same thing. An infection is not, I don't like the word infection. It really implies that, again, there is a pathogen, there is a a a something that is in within us, within the bloodstream, that is attacking us. And if you really, once we really begin to understand, even in the infection, it's really a fermentation taking place. The fermentation is the correction. Okay, but we often we have a lot of fear, and taking antibiotics, there's a price. There's a price to pay, because you're basically killing the healing power of your body. Virus, germs, the attacker, again, it's the same thinking, the same philosophy behind when we have things that show up on a microscope, something that again is looked at as something that needs to be zapped, or needs to be anti you know killed with antibiotics. These are the things that are providing the healing, what the body is naturally designed to do. And then we have herbs. Now, is there a place? Now, herbs are a little bit different. Most of your herbs, again, what I like to do, when I look at herbs, I look at herbs as food. And just like we need food to nourish the body, herbs should be in that category. Now, if we're taking these herbs, because the thing is like, even herbs in a large extent is overstimulating the body. Very simply, if we looked at a lot of, colon cleansing herbs are very popular. And again, those herbs are coming in and overstimulating the bowels to forcing the bowels to move. That's exhausting the bowel system. Now, there may be temporary relief, but in the end, the body knows what it's doing. If the bowels are not moving, then the bowels are resting, and the bowels are resting for a reason. So the thing is that herbs become really dangerous potentially if they become something that you do you don't do you don't like you do repeatedly, because what's going to end up happening is that well, even if you do them repeatedly, your body is going to adjust and the herb is not going to be as effective as it was the first time. So that right there tells you that this is a stimulant more than a healer. There's only one real true healing, and that's self-healing. And then we talk about healing. If we go into healing, and I'll go through these really quickly. Rest, that's self-explanatory. Fasting, and we'll get into that. Exercise. You don't move it, you lose it. We have to move the body. A lot of us has sedentary lifestyles. Our how we make a living, how we work is not a lot of us not moving the body, using the body. We're not doing manual labor. So we have to actually go and exercise, whether it be in all forms of exercise, especially, I mean, anything that involves movement. And we're all familiar with that. Sunlight. Now, this one is really it can't be overstated enough. Is sunlight. We are children of the sun, and vitamin D, again, I mean, you can't explain how important vitamin D is, sunlight is, but just the energy of the sun, it sets the stage for our entire life. The 24-hour clock, the quarterly clock, and obviously our yearly clock. Everything is the rhythm of the sun. Without light itself, I say light is even more important than water. Nature, connecting with nature is extremely important. Again, I mean, just being in, I mean, with this toxic environment that we're in, all the EMF, the Wi-Fi radiation, we're oftentimes indoors, not fresh air. We need to connect. We need to intentionally connect with nature. Of course, diet, that goes without saying, and we can get into the details of diet, but I'm going to save that for the second half. Sleep is also as important as any of these other bullet points. Sleep is probably even more important than what you eat. Play. We have to make time to play. And oftentimes, if your play is creative and it is something that we do in a way that is regular on a repeated level, that can take the place of your exercise. But play is extremely important. And then last but not least, meditation. If we don't meditate, if we don't have quiet time to, it's not enough to just go to sleep at night. We have to have intentional quiet time. If we don't, life will oftentimes force you to go within, through setbacks, trauma, disappointments, etc. Meditation, the power of our mind cannot be overstated. And of course, detoxification. And this is the body connection. When we talk about detox, in the reference of, again, the holistic system, body, soul, and mind, detoxification is detoxification. I want you to think that, this is not something that's a one and done. Whether we're male and female, and we'll get into this on the second half, especially with the females, is that detoxification is something that can be somewhat either a daily, it needs to be something that is regular, repeated, that's something that we do for the rest of our lives. So we talked about toxins, the toxemia explained. We talked about healing, raising our equilibrium. And of course, and I touched on how we've lost trust in our body to heal itself. And oftentimes we have to ask a question when we're facing a healing crisis. Is the body naturally detoxifying itself, or is it the result of a deficiency? And oftentimes you can look within to answer that question. And if you don't have the answer, that's when you go see someone, a someone who is trained properly to be able to evaluate you, to understand if, like, okay, I'm really experiencing is either a detox or a deficiency. And most times it's your body's basically self-correcting itself. But there are times when you have issues related to a deficiency. Okay, so with rhythm, this is the road to basically creating that healing equilibrium. Because with rhythm, we want to be in tune with the cycles. Being in tune with the cycles is first identifying the cycles, understanding what are the key pivot points in the cycles. We have daily cycle, weekly cycle, monthly, yearly cycle. And again, we're going to spend more time on this portion when we get into men and women, especially. Uh, I've been practicing astrology for at least the last 10 years, and astrology cycles are very important. And then we obviously have our personal cycles, which is really part of our astrology rhythm as well. And then, of course, the whole point of understanding the cycle is to be in rhythm with the cycle. And it's all about creating that alignment. And when we create the alignment between our activities, work, eating, how we sleep, how we exercise and play, then we can create efficiency. And then last but not least, when we talk about spirituality, we're talking about the mind. And the question that I ask is that we all understand that we have, or we should have, two entities. Uh, we have a physical body, which I'll call the beast or the animal, and then we have a God body. I don't think anyone would disagree that we are both there's a spiritual essence to who we are, as well as the physical body. But first, we're going to talk about the attributes of the beast life, because if we never take time, and I associate spirituality with the mind because it's all about, again, creating that intentional, quiet time to see beyond this physical body. See, if we just wake up, go through our day, and then go to sleep and think that that's enough in terms of, because, once we go to sleep, we're in we're in the spirit world. Our spirit self really becomes dominant as our physical body goes to a sleep. So if we do that, then the attributes of the beast life really come into focus, and we see what that leads to. So a lot of times, again, there's a focus on the beast self, and the beast self is food and drink. So feeding the beast, and of course, as you feed, you never fast, you never go without. It's the body, the food and the drink become drugs. And then we have the next item is drugs. And because again, there's this focus on the beast life and the body, the physical body, and it's about stimulating the body. And it's like the more you eat, the more you want to eat. And then once you become once you become inundated with the food, you're looking for stronger stimulants, because a lot of times what will happen is that now your body begins to break down that toxemia. You start going down that toxemia list, so now you need prescription drugs, or you even go for recreational drugs. And then of course, on an emotional, more spiritual level, the drama happens, whether it's gossip, being a victim, or just life itself not going the way that would be like in a harmonious way. It's all struggle, it's all difficulty, and then of course that leads to lack, and it ultimately leads to trauma. But if we looked at attributes of the beast life, because or the attributes of the divine life, because ultimately with the beast life, because you never take time to understand that we are infinite beings, that we can perform magic and miracles. But if you see our reality as this 3D physical reality, then that just further expounds itself with, again, how we eat and how we live, and it really becomes, it really, like, limitation becomes your reality, because this physical reality is limited. Everything is limited. But really keying in on divine life is that we are infinite and that we are timeless. But if we never practice that, it's what we practice on a daily basis that's going to make the difference. And it starts with fasting, not feeding the beast, whether it's, and again, there's practices, and I'm going to explain how women and men should do this differently. But fasting has to become a lifestyle practice. Meditation, as I said, intentional quiet time to go beyond this physicality, this physical body, this beast body. And then we can really open up for true bliss, true love, true divine life attributes. And of course, abundance. I mean, how could you not be abundant if you know that you're infinite? So the mind body soul alliance, and as I explained about that emotional body, because again, on top we got one body, and on the bottom we got the beast body, and in the middle is our emotional self. And so really with meditation is about really bridging the two. Meditation is about opening up the heart for love, for peace, for trusting, for being thankful, and being thankful for the problems, especially whether it be physical disease, illness, whether it be losing your job, whatever that be. There's an opportunity with everything. And then to summarize, we're all on this journey. And once we understand that the journey is the joy is in the journey, not in the destination. The journey is the practice. And the practice is the adoption of great lifestyle habits. And that's how we live the divine life. So that was last year's presentation. And again, just as a reminder, if you want to get in detail with that presentation, you can go on my YouTube as I go further deep. And I'm really excited about this next portion of this presentation. Quickly, I want to say that actually, up until 2 weeks ago, I had a whole different plan. I did not actually what I was planning to talk about was the power of salt. Again, salt is a something that we need, and I was gonna, I'm basically looking to help change the narrative around salt, but it wasn't meant to be. It was really meant for me to expound on this, and I'm so happy that I was open to spirit and being guided into talking about this. But I just wanted to share that really quickly. Um, but as we get into men fasting with the sun and women fasting with the moon. Now, this was something that was a premonition, was sort of like an intuitive download about 5 or 6 years ago for me. Usually on my social media channels, and usually I talk about fasting with the solstice and equinox, again, pivot points with the sun. And it just really occurred to me over the years of, and ironically enough, it's women that fast, that have fasted with me way more than men, probably at a clip. I would say at least two for every one man that fasts with me. I'd probably go as far as to say that it's probably 4 to 5 women that are fasting for every one man. So over the years, I've gotten a chance to witness women in terms of being in rhythm with their, or being in their cycle, and how it affects, especially like with the longer fasts that we would do. And oftentimes it would be something that they either really struggled with or it was very easy. And we'll get into that. But nevertheless, 5 years ago, I just had this premonition that it just made sense. I think it was really partly inspired from my study of astrology and really understanding, getting in detail with understanding the our cosmic reality, and how it, because astrology is really looking at our star system and seeing how it translates to our everyday reality, especially on a personal level, with our personality, obviously, but also as it affects every aspect of our life, from our career, our family, our marriage, our everything that we can think of, siblings, children, everything. So it just really something that really made sense. I didn't really, but even when I made that video and I introduced that concept, I never really understood the things I'm going to present in the next few minutes, as far as the woman's cycle. So let's begin with the men. Uh, I say men are from the sun. And one thing that is really a failure of our culture is that we live in a sun culture. The sun, as I say, the sun culture predominates. We're all living in accordance to our sun cycle, at the expense of not really honoring the moon cycle or a woman's cycle. And we'll get into that much further as we go along. But right now, we're just going to discuss what we all know, because this is what we celebrate. We celebrate the sun cycle. Everything that in our culture is about celebration of the sun. And that's not a bad thing. The sun is our ego, of course. But if we get into the sun cycle, of course, we have the 24-hour cycle. We have the quarterly cycle, as we know as the equinox and the solstices. And this is something that, over the years that I've focused on. And I've never, up until now, up until tonight, but we're really going to get into the female cycle. But of course, we're going to go through this. Of course, our whole year is set from the rhythm of the sun. And then all of our activities. Obviously, we wake up with the sun. We go to sleep when the sun goes down. We eat when the sun is up. We rest, obviously. all of our activities. And then fasting, so up until tonight, and that's why I'm so excited, and that's why it was so important for me to talk about this. While the salt topic was a very interesting one, and I'm still interested in giving that presentation at some point. Um, Talking about fasting with the sun is something that I focused on because I'm being a man. Men's clock is basically the same every day of the year. We operate on a 24-hour clock. And of course, that's driven from our primary sex hormone, testosterone. And as an astrologer, I just want to share some of the sun attributes. This is our king masculine energy, and I think this is why because life ultimately is about balance. And when we have the sun predominating our culture, we have really men and women, and that's the failure. That is the imbalance, because in our culture, especially in the United States, men and women are emulating this energy. So, and I'm just going to go down. These are a few things that I wanted to share as far as the astrological attributes. So, oftentimes when I'm looking at someone's chart and I see their sun, it's the light that we want to shine in the world. It is a measure of our vitality. It's also going to see, sun is also about our leadership. Again, these are all like, I think it's important to go through these, because this is how the cosmic energy translates into the energy here on the earth plane. Our courage, our ego, of course. It rules the Leo constellation. Obviously, anybody with a lot of Leo placements is going to naturally have these qualities. It's also the natural ruler of the fifth house. The fifth house being the house of creativity. It's a fun house. It's a house of creating children. So, the sun is the father of the chart, and it represents like that again, that divine masculine energy, and definitely about family. And then on a food level, I would say that the sun relates to protein rich foods. Now we get a chance to get into really what I'm really excited about: women being from the moon. um and this is queen feminine energy. The moon is a regal luminary in our sky. The sun and moon both are, it's not just the sun, it's the moon. And this is the failure in our society, because we've associated the sun as what everyone should aspire to be. Our women are really, in our culture, I don't think it's any debate that, um whether you have again, male or female, the focus is the same. Whether you have a female child, if you're raising a child, and the young people that are cultivated in our society today, that we are training both male and female child to be men. So the queen feminine energy, and the reason we're gonna, as we go through this, we're gonna see why that is a failure, and is a failure to our women. Because the moon cycle, as I said, men operate on a 24-hour cycle, and we operate obviously on a, like, basically we're in rhythm with the sun. And with the moon cycle, the moon goes through an entire cycle within 28 days. See, the sun, as we know, even basic astrology, sun, we understand that it takes an entire, that's what sets our year, is that we go through an entire year it goes through the entire zodiac in a year, in 365 days. The moon goes through the entire zodiac in 28 days. So there's a 28-day cycle. And essentially, for a woman, she goes through an entire cycle within that 28-day period, where we go through an entire cycle in a 365-day period. So why is that important? And those cycles can be broken into weeks, and I'll get into that in a little bit further. But all of the activities of a woman should be aligned with the moon, well, with her moon cycle. Because obviously we have the moon, which shows its 28-day rhythm, right? New moon, quarter moon, full moon, back to the quarter moon, and then back to new moon. But of course, with the female reproduction cycle, activities, and this is the resulting failure, because women, for the most part, their activities are operating squarely around the sun cycle. And even though we all know that women have a reproductive clock that operates on a 28-day rhythm, women, for the most part, even, and I can say this, even obviously I'm not a woman, that women do not honor and do not honor unless it is a result of discomfort and pain, where they have to honor that moon clock. But the activities are not intentionally, they have to be intentional with the activities. Just like we should be intentional with fasting at specific periods, not because we're sick, but because this is the rhythm. I want to be aligned with the cycle. So how the diet and what types of foods? So the foods within a 28-day cycle will vary greatly for a woman. And all women will attest that the cravings are different within that 28-day cycle. The rest, all of the life activities for a woman have to be very different. And of course, the fasting. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that in just a second. And of course, the primary sex hormone driving the moon, we see this connection between again, it's like the moon is the cosmic relationship, it is the result, it is the driver of estrogen. And when I think about estrogen, because obviously male and female both have testosterone and estrogen, and estrogen is really just the counterpart. I really look at it as the feminine testosterone, but in a female way. It is really like, but obviously understanding how estrogen will evolve during the 28-day cycle is going to be extremely important, because our testosterone operates on a 24-hour cycle. See, estrogen don't operate on a 24-hour cycle. Estrogen operates on a 28-day cycle. So if that is your primary sex hormone, that has to, all of your activities have to be in rhythm with that, or else you're undoing your femininity. And that is the failure of our culture. Before we get into that, I just want to just go through some astrological attributes and see how they differ or how they complement the sun. As I said, the moon is the queen of our sky. It is the divine feminine energy. Okay, so the moon is the mind. When we study astrology, the moon is the controller of the emotional mind. Emotions, as I said, the emotions and the mind are almost one and the same. Home. The moon, people with strong moon energy, dominant moon energy, home is where the heart is, as they say. It's the mother. As the sun was the father, the moon is the mother. Of course, it rules the Cancer constellation and the fourth house in the zodiac. The fourth house is associated with all the things that we said, the mother, the home energy. Nourishment. That's the first thing we get from our mothers is to be nourished. We come through this, the woman is the portal. It's our foundation. And on the food level, the most nourishing foods are fatty foods. Foods that create that have some level of fat or some oil, like milk, for example. That's our first food. All right, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is what is will probably be my favorite part of this presentation. And I alluded to it a little bit earlier. Yes, the moon is on a 28-day creation cycle. See, at the heart of health itself is reproduction. Our ability to reproduce life itself is a measure of our vitality. And as women not honoring and not being in rhythm with their 28-day cycle is an undoing of your womanly feminine self, as I've said. Now, week one, that's the new moon, and the new moon for women, especially that are still ovulating and shedding lining. Week one is like day one is the first day of your menstruation, and that is, we can associate that as your winter. So we're gonna break the 28-day cycle into four 7-day cycles, and each one of those being your season. And in those seasons, when the next time you have your cycle, all of your activities will operate based on the weekly season that you're in. So when we talked about fasting, we talked about food, we talk about exercise. All of these things need to be honored in terms of which week you're in. Now, with week one, that is the beginning. That is when, again, your body is shedding an unfertilized egg. Now, what's happening too with most women that are shedding and bleeding via menstruation, this is a time that the body also uses for detoxification. So oftentimes there can be very heavy bleeding. There can be even discomfort associated with the shedding of the unfertilized egg. But for the most part, all this is the beginning of this is week one. That day one, that is the beginning. So if we look at your estrogen level, your estrogen level is very low. So this is actually during this week, this is the week for women to fast. This is the ideal week for women to fast. And it goes also in association because most women, most if not, let me just go, let me say most women are likely not practicing sex during this week as well. So it's a natural week to abstain from sex, and it's also a natural week to abstain from food. So this is going to be the time, and you're going to feel completely fine. Most women feel this like there is very little appetite during this week. And this is a great time. I would recommend that women fast at least 3 days of this 7-day period. Not to say that your cycle lasts 7 days, but if we take it as a 7-day period within the 28-day cycle, I would say fast at least 3 days every month. Every month, because again, your 1 day is really 28 days. It's 28 Sundays. And I don't mean Sunday as the day of the week. I mean the sun, our 24-hour clock is set by the sun. So I say that's a Sunday, but a moon day is really a whole 28 days. And within that 28 days, especially that first week when you're in that winter season, you can practice. It is very healthy. It is the best time for you to really go into fast at least 3 days, or if you feel like eating, limited to fruit. So you could do your high fruit diet. You can if even if you're eating, this is a time you could even practice 1 meal a day, at the very most 1 meal a day, no more than 1 meal a day. High hydration. Again, it's like go for it completely. And this is your reset. As I said, this is the new moon, and this is your winter season. So week 2. Now week 2, this is, again, we want to think of this in terms of you are building, basically during this 28-day phase. The human body wants to ultimately reproduce itself. And during this second week, within the 28-day rhythmic cycle, creation cycle, this is now a time where that second week, this is the time to really start to begin to build in terms of building up those reserves. So it is a least ideal. Estrogen starts to rise, and it's a great time to exercise. It's a great time to begin to eat nourishing foods. You can still fast, but I would say not over 24-hour fast. So this is a time you could practice your intermittent fasting. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit later. But this is the time where your creativity is flowing, and this is also your energy is probably at its highest during this time. Like again, when we're in our spring months during the solar year, nature is blooming and budding, and energy is popping off, and you have this during your second week, because again, your body is preparing itself to get pregnant ultimately. And then, week 3, full creation mode. The egg is ready to be fertilized. So again, the body wants to eat. Estrogen is probably at its highest level. Even testosterone starts to kick in for women because the body wants to get pregnant, right? So that's what's happening. Obviously, fasting and not ideal. Not the body wants nourishing. It wants to feed those hormones are driving you to eat. And then of course week 4 is when you hit full tilt. And I call it retreat because everything that I thought, or at least in the rhythm of, because again, this is the time now where the body for a female, so let's hypothetically take it as something that is happening, that the egg has been fertilized, right? And conception has happened. Conception, the egg is fertilized. Now the body wants to ensure that that pregnancy is a success. So all of the cravings during this 4th week are all about feeding that reality. Even if it's not a reality, it's still a part of the rhythm cycle. So the cravings and everything so it's definitely, this is the time to retreat and to really get into your feminine, to your feminine. And when I say feminine, I mean getting into your soft self, getting into your female self, retreating from the world. So I say women are from the moon, but they are also from Venus. And if we think about the Venus cycle, because this is what has been really illuminating for me. This picture, if you're looking at the slide, you see the crescent moon here, and up. I don't know if I can move my, but right next to me, you see Venus, and Venus is so bright, and Venus is truly what makes a woman a woman. Let me just say that because it is so different as a man. Even though we all have we all have Venusian abilities. Venus is our creativity. It is it rules the arts. I myself, of course, very much an artist. But within the moon cycle itself, that fourth week is where Venus takes over. So all those cravings that you have, all the lethargy and the comfort that you want to feel, that's Venus taking over. So food just hits a whole nother level as far as the cravings. Again, rest. Every woman, there should be activities within our society for a woman to be able to retreat during that fourth week. And then, of course, Venus, let me say this, Venus and fasting, they're not friends. Venus is not about fasting. Venus is about pleasure and food and eating. And this is all driven from progesterone. See, men, we don't produce progesterone. We have estrogen and testosterone. But progesterone, that's why I say Venus is completely what makes a woman, because progesterone is really the game changer. Because progesterone is really, when you research progesterone, when you start to understand progesterone is really responsible for one thing: fertility. The beautiful irony of that is that when we study Venus also is all about fertility. Venus rules the Venus rules sex and relationships, but the sexual fluids, that's Venus. So Venus astrological attributes, and this is going to be important to go through because we think about progesterone. Again, these are natural, every woman, and I call it youthful feminine energy, because I think for most women in our current society today, the measure of their fertility is how is a direct measure of their ability to produce progesterone. And I believe that's why they say at 35, for most women, that becomes high risk pregnancy, because and it's solely related to progesterone. So again, if we think about that 4 week cycle, right, and the progesterone really coming into play that fourth week, but you're living on this solar clock. You're out there hustling and going to war with the men of the world. You're undoing your femininity. You're undoing your ability to produce progesterone. And that's going to affect not only your youth and vitality, it's going to obviously affect your fertility. It's going to affect your everything that makes you a woman. So if we get into the Venus astrological attributes, now the Venus doesn't have a defining cycle like the sun and the moon. It really operates within both the sun and the moon, as we see. The Venus astrologically actually stays pretty much in rhythm with the sun, as does Mercury. So Venus and Mercury are pretty much around the sun. So Venus doesn't necessarily, again, have its own. It's really the young, again, the youthful feminine energy. Venus is all about pleasure. So again, as I go through these things and we think about that 28-day creation cycle in that fourth week of fall for a woman, that week you should be pleasuring yourself in terms of all of the things that you love to do as a woman. Go on travel, go on trips, eat your favorite foods. Obviously, you want them to be healthy, not just the process or the foods that are heavy in dairy, or you want to eat foods that obviously fulfill your cravings that are also healthy. But pleasure is really the should be the underlying focus for all women at least 1 week out of every month. And it should be that week that you would hypothetically be after your conception. Comfort, comfort. And then foods. So so Venus is this is the time where it is actually recommended that you load up on the starches. And I would never think that those words would ever come out of my mouth, knowing what starch is. But there are good starches. Let me start with that. There are good starches. And ultimately, you want to eat the best starches, our squashes, all of our squashes, should fall under that category. Um, when we start getting into like the potato and the yams, again, I'm not going to say don't eat those, but obviously the yam is going to be superior than the potato. But then you also have your tropical fruits, which is also under Venus. Venus loves the tropical sweet fruits, the papaya, the mango, the pineapple. That's all Venusian food. So this is also the time to really start to bring in those foods. Bananas, plantains, which actually are sweet and starchy. They have a starch component. So that's really your ideal, is to really hit those sweet, starchy fruits. Sex. Venus is all about sex, because Venus is the primary star responsible for reproduction, nourishment. It rules Taurus and Libra constellation. Now Taurus is the constellation of food. Libra is the constellation of relationships. So Venus is about those, food and relationships. And that's also the second and the seventh house. Second house, Taurus, seventh house. So seventh house is marriage, second house is food. Fertility, reproduction. I mean, we all here because of Venus on some level or another. So now we get into our women's fasting plan. And I kind of alluded to a couple of these things, but they're definitely worth repeating. So during that week one, during the new moon reset, this is obviously the ideal time to fast. Again, as I recommend, I would say for every woman to fast at least 3 days. And again, a fast could mean many different things. At the very extreme, I would say that it would be a water fast. Even though I don't recommend a pure water fast, I would say there's water fast, and then I don't recommend a water fast really for anyone, because I question the source of the water, and I say that the superior water is the water of the coconut. So if you're gonna do a plain water fast, just do your coconut water fast. You can do a fresh juice fast during this week. And at the very height of the fast, I also consider just monitoring on different fruits also as a fast. Because a lot of your fruits, especially your melons and your citrus, they're like 90 to 95% water. So you're essentially just eating water, and you're eating it in a whole food form. So coconut water, fruit and vegetable juices, and or fruit. This is the time to do that. At least I would say 3 days out of that week. And then week two, again, you're building. This is the equivalent. This is the spring week. So now your body is building towards conception. So this is the time to do your intermittent fasting. This is also the time to really kick your exercise into high gear. So whether you're doing yoga, Pilates, you do power walking, you do aerobics, even weight training, this is the time to this is the week. The first week, I would say that's more of a rest week, light exercise during your first week as far as exercise itself. But that's basically your time where again, it's a reset. Not a lot of energy. The hormones are very low at that point. Obviously, third week, summer, full creation mode. This is the time to eat basically. And because again, your body is preparing itself to for egg to be fertilized. So the body wants food. The body, and again, it's not a time to really kind of go against that hormonal balance. So while you can still do one meal a day, again, I would say that depends on the person. But even if you're doing one meal a day, you're still nourishing the body with either fruit juices, coconut water, or fruits. And then you have your one meal a day. And that's the same for week two as well. And then week four, definitely not recommended for any fasting during that week. Again, progesterone, Venus it takes over. It takes over. So this is the time to really feed those hormones. Those hormones are going to drive those cravings. And this is a time, like, look, you can get away with quote unquote murder with your foods. Now, obviously, you want to have a conscience, you don't want to go all out, but this is a time to really feed. But really, I think it's really more of an energetic thing in terms of that week where you again really treat yourself. You comfort yourself, go to have a spa day or a spa week, get the massage, get the rest in, do pleasure giving activities. And a question I may get, but should women, after really looking at this knowledge, should women do longer fast, 7 days or longer? And this is a question I thought about because obviously I've had lots of women do long fast with me. And I even met a woman earlier this year who was actually fasting for a whole year, and her energy was great. Now, obviously, I think this is more of an individualized question. I don't know if I could generalize it. The short answer is for the most part no, but it really depends on what cycle of her life is she in. If she's in the baby making stage, then I would definitely say no. I would say that she should really stay within that first week of her fasting, and she can do intermittent fastings in the second and third week. But if she is like basically 30 and under, and if she's looking to start a family, have children, I would say no. Doing a longer fast, because a longer fast is really more corrective. More than 7 days is something where you're now trying to, it's a passive aggressive way for corrective healing. like you're trying to really do something aggressive, so you're gonna do an extended fast. So that really is the next point, is that is there an issue as far as disease or illness that requires you to do a longer fast. So that has to be looked at. But if the person is generally healthy, and they're looking, again, they're looking to conceive at some point in the phase of their life, then I would say no. Now, if she is again beyond, like she has reached menopause and she is not looking to procreate, then yes, then 7 days or longer. But I still, with an asterisk, that you still want to honor your 28-day rhythm. So while doing a 7 or 14 day, or even up to a 28 day, because I've had, even most recently had a woman, but she was definitely an older woman. I think she did a couple of months with me doing juicing. She did at least 2 months. I'm almost certain, maybe three if I remember correctly. But but obviously she was beyond her baby making years. So, but in large part, I guess the point of this is to really recognize, and more than because we all recognize that women have a 28-day cycle, but I'm not going out on a limb say that women and or men are not honoring this cycle. And that's our and that's where we've failed. So as we come, and again, that's what I say. When women don't honor the moon slash Venus cycle, and these are some of the conclusions that I come up with. Well, it all starts from a sun culture imbalance. As I said, I started this where men, everything in our society is based on the sun. And even though we all know that women have this 28-day rhythm, we're like, well, we still get up in the morning, we still go to work, we still do this, we still do that, we do everything. Men can get away with doing the same thing and eating the same thing every single day. So men don't understand women, and even women don't understand themselves. But it's all because of our culture. We have this sun culture predominant imbalance. We got to understand. I say that men are from the sun, and I have this concept where I actually say men are from heaven, women are from earth. And not that heaven is superior to earth or vice versa. It's the balance, it's the cosmic relationship between the masculine and the feminine. The masculine being that testosterone, that solar energy that operates on a 24-hour, 365-day cycle, and the earth, because women have to be connected more so to the earth than men, because we all come through the woman. So the woman takes gives shape and form to our earthly function. So, respecting and honoring these compliments, the yin and the yang, this is where we have failed. And this has led, I mean, you it doesn't take hardcore research to see that infertility is all over the globe, all over the globe. And it's I mean, I think back, even, I mean, my mom's even a generation before me, where, and I'm sure most of you listening, it was all the same. How the generation before you, if y'all all the same age as me, similar age to me, the generations before you were big families. It was routine and easy to see families had 10 plus kids, 15 kids, 8 kids, 7 kids. Like that was the norm. It's now, I mean, if a woman have 2 children, 1 child, 2 child, that's become our new normal. And then, of course, the fibroids. Now, fibroids, even beyond the dietary mishaps, the dairy and certain different meats and things that are creating these fibroid, because fibroid, the way I understand, the way I like to look at it, is not really a tumor, it's scar tissue. And how is scar tissue? Let's think about this like on a basic level. How is scar tissue formed? Usually, scar tissue is when something is rough and scarring the body. Again, the body knows what it's doing. The body doesn't just do it just because it wants to hurt itself. The body wants to heal itself always, 100%. And when there's scarring, there's scar tissue that's formulating in the sensitive uterus, in the womb area. To me, energetically, what's happening is that the woman is living a man's life. The woman is hustling and got the career and she's doing everything a man is designed to do. We are built to go to war, to die, to stress this body. Again, we can eat, we can get away with so much physically and even mentally, spiritually as well. And not honoring, I feel even, I would say right on par with the diet, because I mean obviously, if we're being honest, yes, diet is very much a result of the fibroid epidemic with black women especially. And obviously there's a definite vitamin D relationship with fibroids, but even aside from that, women are not being women, and that's why we have scarring in that area. And dryness. Dryness shows up when there's heat. When we out here hustling and you know just driven, there's a lot of heat has to be generated. I tell this short little story. When I because I really give thanks. I mean, my mom passed 10 years ago, but growing up and having all of these plans, and my mom wasn't one who had a career and went to college and did anything. And I used to ask her, like, why didn't you go to college? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And she was like, well, I learned how to sew and I made clothes, and you know and now I understand, man, she was doing exactly what she was supposed to do as a woman. She was, obviously, is, me and my siblings, we, is a few of us, obviously, and you know she, again, but that was the norm of that day. All right, that's what women did for the most part. Wasn't all of this ambition, and not to say that women shouldn't have bit ambition. Look, don't, I know that's not popular to say in our environment today, or especially political, gender, etc. But when there's a lot of heat being generated, is going to be dry, and no woman wants to be dry, especially in the vaginal area. But this is what we're seeing. And then, I think it'd be, to talk about a woman's life cycle of reproduction. As I said a little earlier, is that the vitality of a woman and a man is built on our ability to reproduce. Okay, and what's happening today with everything in our society, as far as like it really being anti-life, a woman's cycle is what's happening is that her ovulation clock is beginning earlier. When I looked at some research on this, once upon a time, young girls becoming women, as far as the ovulation clock, was starting in their later teenage years. Now we're seeing girls starting to ovulate 10, 11, 12. And what's happening with that, and then obviously ending early. So ideally, the way I see it is that a woman's clock should be starting later. The later, the better, and then extending far beyond 35. Into who knows? I mean, we don't know what's possible. Obviously, we know that women have had children at what we consider maybe definitely late ages. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, but for the most part, generally speaking, is that women's cycles are starting too soon, and they're ending too soon. And so what's happening, because if a woman is on, like, a young girl is not doing the things that she needs to do for a healthy life, then that's going to kickstart the reproduction, because the body understands that it's shortening your lifespan, given those lifestyle habits even as a young girl. So that's why we have shorter we have girls getting their cycle sooner, because the whole life cycle is being shortened. So we really want, as a community, and we should be striving to have our young girls reaching ovulation later, so that they can, because the thing is, like, what child is ready to reproduce life at 11 years old or 12 years old? It really should allow the mind to develop, the mind, obviously women mature much faster than young boys, but still early is early. And then, of course, I feel that this has been so illuminating for me, having had my share of failed relationships. Not really, I mean, I go as far as to say that, yeah, I did not understand this truly about women. And I feel that as we understand ourselves, we can better understand each other, and we can better relate to one another. And so I feel as though, this information, as far as really honoring our each, our uniqueness, and how we complement each other, we can really have much higher rate of success in our relationships. And of course, that's going to lead to a much better uh, uh, community vibration, family vibration, et cetera, for our future and our generations. So that concludes my presentation. And I think we're right on time. Is that right? We're
Yes, indeed. Yes,
right on
indeed.
time. All right.
Right
Awesome.
on time. Thank
On
you. Thank you,
time.
everyone. So, yes, see
Awesome.
many claps and hearts coming through. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us this evening. We are going to now begin our Q&A section. So if you have questions for the presenter, for Kepra, please post them in the Q&A box. Just to answer one quick question, and some people did ask about the presentation. It is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Karak Browder YouTube page. Karak, Karakh, Browder YouTube page. And you can find this presentation as well as more recent Wisdom Wednesday presentations there. You may find older Wisdom Wednesday presentations at IKG Cultural Resource Center YouTube page. All right. So as questions are coming in, again, please place them in the Q&A box so I can make sure that I see them and ask them. I do see one question though in the chat that I'm going to go ahead and ask because I see it. And it gets back to, you were talking about when women should fast based on the moon cycle and their ovulation. The question from Ricky is, how does this play out for menopausal women?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yeah, I wanted to address part of that. I just left that out. But that is something, I mean, for the most part, menopausal women, because with menopause, obviously that's something that shouldn't be, because most of our women are, again, out of balance and out of rhythm with their natural healing balance for the most part. And menopause becomes like this challenging, the hot flashes, and because essentially what's happening is that the menstruation becomes a detoxification event, and now the detoxification event is not happening. So now the body has to figure out how to rid itself of those monthly toxins in the case of that event. So in terms, so really what's happening, because also what's happening is on a hormonal level, is that again, the estrogen and progesterone, especially progesterone, are not being generated at the same level, because again, the fertility is, becoming something of the past. So as far as fasting, it's actually more recommended, and that women go into more fasting, but still, again, honoring, they're still on a 28-day clock. So depending on the actual age of the woman, what's actually happening, and when she's still honoring that clock, it's going to be important to change the whole lifestyle habits. But it's sort of another level reset. I mean, it's I kind of touched on it when I asked the question about should women fast for longer than 7 days, and during that time when she is going through that transition, she should start to incorporate more fasting, as similar to what men can naturally do based on their hormonal cycle.
Okay, great. Another question coming from Osler is, can fasting help hair loss in men? I guess help prevent hair loss in men.
I'm gonna say yes. Absolutely. I think it can, I wouldn't say that it can regenerate hair, but it can certainly slow it down. Like if you have hair loss happening, incorporating it, especially if you don't incorporate a fasting practice within your lifestyle, then yeah, fasting is certainly gonna alleviate, because I mean, essentially, what is fasting doing? Fasting is really prolonging your life cycle. Eating, one of the things that when I talk about eating, is that, we the more we eat, it's like the more we rush to the finish line. I think I have this thought that, like, how many meals our body's only meant to digest a certain amount of meals over a lifetime. And the more we eat, the faster we reach that finish line. So if we say, okay, well, if that's true, and if let's say it's 20,000 meals or 100,000 meals or whatever it is, like maybe I should just eat not only once a day, but maybe once every other day. Let me take my time in getting to the finish line. So this is why we need to incorporate fasting. Men could fast. I didn't really I wanted to focus on the women tonight. I didn't really get into like the fasting rhythm for men for the most part, but pretty much it's pretty basic. We should not be eating more than one meal a day. If you're a mature adult male, you shouldn't, you eat one meal a day, and then you don't eat every day. At least one day out of the 7 day period should be a fast day. And then every quarter, you should do at least 3 to 7 days every quarter with the solstice and equinox. Very simple. And then once a year, you can do a 7 day or longer fast once a year. And men, as a man, I've been doing just that for 20 years, 25 years. I haven't eaten. I've been fasting. Sunday is my day, so whatever day, pick a day. But really, the goal as a man, you should want to incorporate fasting as a practice, as something that is just your normal. I mean, not eating makes food more enjoyable, and that should be the motivation. Because again, if you're eating every day, you're in beast mode. You're an animal. You're not in the divine rhythm of your divine potential if you're eating every day.
So along the lines of fasting, Talitha, Talitha asked, can you further explain the fasting part? Is it no food during certain hours of the 3 days? So there's different types of fast
Right,
and
right. Yeah.
religious fast. Can you speak to what you're referring to?
Yeah, so there's different levels of fast. At the highest level is dry fast. No food, no water. I don't recommend that. Again, the dry fasting is more for maybe spiritual purposes. It's not really for health, even though you will get health benefits by dry fasting. But for the most part, it's not necessary to dry fast, just like it's not necessary to water fast. You'll achieve better results doing either coconut water and or juice, fresh juice. So it could be just coconut water and or fresh juices along with the coconut water. You'll get all the results of a dry fast and of a water fast. Because the thing is like, some fasting leaders say that, well, if you bring in coconut water or juice, you're bringing in nutrition. It's not a true fast. But from a health perspective, you're going to get all the benefits of a water fast. While they are right in saying that, because the body does have, if you bring in coconut water or fresh juice, your body does use some energy to process it, but it's minimal. And you're going to get all the benefits. You're going to have the pleasure of drinking fresh juices and get all the benefits. So it's a win-win, right? So that's the level. And then at the highest, I also consider just eating fruits as a fast, because most of us are, I mean, I know some people who only eat fruit or fruitarians, and I have my thoughts about that. I mean, if anyone's curious, I'll share my thoughts about that. But for the question that's been asked, those are the levels that I define as, like, when I say fast, either for men or women, is to either do your fruits, you do your juices, or if you want to do water or dry. I don't recommend those, but that's how I define like the levels of fasting.
And I just want to say I've done your juice cleanses, juice fasts for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done the 7 day, 14, 21. I think I even did a 40 day.
Mm.
And I just want to say to everyone, they are wonderful. Um, I find that I'm not even hungry, and they're delicious, first of all, but I'm not even hungry after drinking the juices. So they're very filling, very refreshing. And I definitely see the benefits of it. So I just want to shout you out for that. I know that's not, the
Thank
purpose, but I do want to shout you out and let people know that
you.
you can purchase juice cleanses at Kepra's Raw Food Juice Bar.net, and I did place that in the chat. And you can find out more about delivery options and everything on the website. So just want to put that out there. Another question related to, I guess, a healthy lifestyle of living. Talitha asks, is it possible to live a long, healthy life as an omnivore? And as a person of African descent, is it better to be a vegan? Omnivore or vegan?
Oh man, you're trying to get me in trouble. Um, I say that because as a long practicing vegan, if I'm being honest, I would have to say yes. You can live a long healthy lifestyle as an omnivore. Really, now is I mean I so let me say this first. The first we're fruitarians. I've said that for years, and I still believe that. However, I don't believe that we're only meant to eat fruits. Um, if we take a look at like the basic categories of fruits, fruits have it definitely on a spiritual level, as far as everything that is edible for us, karmically, spiritually, fruits is our divine food. No question about that. Nature gives that to us in its proper form. Vegetables are a man made creation. Vegetables, on the other hand, are a man made creation. Most, if not all, of your vegetables are created from some other weed or herb or something that is not ideal to eat in its natural state. So, can we eat vegetables and be healthy? Absolutely. But this is why you hear that most vegetables that you hear about have to be cooked, because in their natural raw state they become very difficult to digest. So most and again, this is most of your vegetables for the most part. Now the caveat to that, and I also will put meat or into this category, is the science and art of fermentation. Now, as a raw foodist, I put vegetables and really meats in the same category, because meat, even though meat, like if we look at different food products, like different animal source foods, nutritionally, those are going to be the foods that are loaded with the most nutrition bite for bite. Now, there's a price to pay, because the concentration of nutrition, or what you have to do, either to hunt that animal, or however you need to get that animal, is going to be very difficult, and we don't really have the equipment to break those foods down properly. However, with the science and art of fermentation, again, with your vegetables and your animal products, see, cooking is going in the other direction, because when you're cooking, you're actually, I say cooking is a forced ripening process. Because if we look at fruits, right? Fruits are ripened, we say tree ripened or sun ripened. That's a cooking process. But now, if we're taking meat that you don't feel like you can chew and digest off the bone or off the scales, in its natural form, you're going to apply heat and 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 worse. So when you apply heat, you destroy the protein structures, you destroy really the nutritional essence of that food, whether it be an animal or a vegetable. But doing a fermentation process where it has this breakdown and it creates its own digestive enzymes, now this food can be assimilated. And I feel that fermentation, and it really relates to what I was even going to talk about with the salt, because a lot of your salt was being used as a vehicle for fermentation and preservation of food. So salt is a gift. It's really a it's really such a there's the propaganda against salt, and that and that of course we associate it with high blood pressure is a lie. So so to answer the question though, yes. um I mean, it's something I'm still because again, most people, especially in the vegan community, obviously we have demonized animal products, but having had a number of small children, I've seen the effects of I've seen the bad effects of a vegan diet for pregnant women. I don't recommend a woman who's pregnant to be on a vegan diet, and I certainly don't recommend children to be on a vegan diet. Again, this is what I've seen with my eyes, and so I know that there's outliers and things, but for the most part, what I've seen over my 30 years of being in this world, now if you're a mature, fully developed adult and you're an elder or even an elder, okay, maybe you can, maybe a vegan diet is the optimal diet. But again, you got to be mindful of what I said about vegetables. So, it's all, these are great questions. Great, wonderful question. I hope that you understand my angle. And it's really what I'm doing is kind of not having a definitive yes or no, but leaving it open-ended for your further research, but then really going within and finding out what's best for you.
So great response. And we have a few more questions. And I know we're winding down the time. So I'm gonna hopefully we can make these
Sure.
relatively brief, just so we can kind of get them in. Jordan asked, speaking of what you just said, what do you think about eating for your blood type? I guess this is some work by Dr. Diadamo. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that belief or that science. Um, I mean, not to compare us. Well, if I made a comparison with animals, I mean, there's animals that eat that have many different types of blood types, and they eat pretty much the same diet. Uh, I I I think that there are more not so much with blood type, because I think the blood type, you get into like the vegetable type versus like eating like things like red meat and things like that. I think that we are definitely more similar to different. If there's any differences, there are differences with genetics in terms of like different race. I definitely honor those differences. I think that given your racial background, your diet should be tailored to what your traditional ancestors ate.
Okay, and um, Alice is asking about young girls' menses beginning. Is there a way to control when a young girl starts ovulating or having her period? I guess in terms of health or food. She shares that she was 11 when she started hers. And
Sure.
so, is there a way to control that?
Well, it just has to start from the beginning in terms of, I mean, it's hard because Obviously at that age, a young girl should be eating, you know, like eating is a, something that should happen. And as a parent, you have to do your best to limit or no processed foods, shopping at, because even now organic is questionable. It's crazy for me to even say that, but I don't know if you can even really truly trust organic. The only truly organic now is really like if you're growing it or you go to farmers market, you trust the farmers you shop from. But most of us should be going to our farmers markets. I think these are ways, and then culturally, again, I really tried to stress, female and women doing women things. And for young girls, they should be seeing examples of women doing women type things. Again, I don't, I know that there's not enough of that. Women are really trained to, get higher education, become doctor, lawyer, get your career, girl. Go for yours. Forget about family, forget about becoming a mother. You don't need to learn how to sew or crochet. Not to say that that's a purely woman thing, but y'all get my gist. These are like, so they're energetic things you should do, like there's rites of passage for young girls. I think that's awesome program that like girls around that age should go through. Um, and then nutrition, and really the nutrition is really the thing is not eating this food versus that food. It really the food that is the food, getting away from the chemicals and the pesticides and these are the things that it's just permeating all foods. Like you almost can't trust anything. It's very difficult, it's very hard, and it's hard for me to even give good advice in that area.
Understood, understood. Well, this is going to be our final question, and I think it's very fitting. Sandra shares that she has also done your fast and has taken some of your classes. Are you considering doing any meal order services? And to that end, can you just share a little bit about what food services you do provide, and just tell us a little bit about your business, how people can reach you, get in contact with you, and things of that nature?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so right now, we have we are back open. It's interesting because last year when I presented, we weren't, I wasn't open, and I said in 2025 we're gonna be open. So when I saw that, when I rewatched it, I said, "Wow, okay, I guess we manifested." So we are back open. We have, basically, the best option is to come pick up. We do offer delivery via Uber Eats if you want to order, and that's pretty much the gist of the food. As Audra mentioned, we have the juices. We still deliver the juice cleanses on Sundays. And then we obviously have those available for pickup as well. Our location, we're in DC at Tastemakers Shared Kitchen. We have a booth. It's at 2800 10th Street Northeast. When you can go on my website, get the address. Um, but as far as, I mean, you mentioned, she's done classes. I did want to announce that I am planning a retreat to Kenya, East Africa next February. I don't have the flyer done up yet, but that should be happening in a few weeks. We'll have the flyer. If you go on my website, sign up for my newsletter, or just follow me on my social media. Um, you can get that information. For those, I know a lot of you not local, so if you want to come, live the life in Kenya. I've been, past 10, well, actually 20, last 20 years, we've been going basically to the Caribbean. So now I have an opportunity. I got people on the ground in Kenya, in Mombasa, and Diani. If you're familiar with the layout of Kenya, some of the cities there, we're going to be there for 10 days, 10-day retreat. Like I said, we'll be dropping the details in a couple weeks. Yeah, I think that is it as far as the food, the retreat. I mentioned that. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. I just placed in the chat his website. Again, it's Kepra's rawfoodjuicebar.net. And Kepra is spelled Kepras. Kepra's rawfoodjuicebar.net. And family, I want to invite you all out to our next Wisdom Wednesday. That's going to be on Wednesday, August 20th. And the topic is very fitting. We're going to have Qual Vladimir speaking on emergency preparedness. Now, we know there's been a lot happening with storms and emergencies taking place. Even, I think just yesterday, some flooding in New Jersey and New York. We have floods in Texas. We need to always be ready. They say stay ready, so you don't have to get ready. Well, we're going to have a presentation next month on emergency preparedness. You don't want to miss it. Please join us. That will be August 20th. Again, you can also go to ikgculturalresourcecenter.com to find the entire Wisdom Wednesday lecture series and to register for the webinars. All right. And also on the IKG site, you can register and attend the Egypt on the Potomac field trips. So we thank you all for joining us this evening. And we pray that you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of the month. And we'll see you next month. Peace.
Peace.